Hi, I'm Mary Wing Soares, and with me today is Scott LaLiberty, our Superintendent of Schools, and this is Transparency in Government. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here today.
Thanks for inviting me.
Yes. You're so kind to come every month and talk to us about the different things that are happening in the schools. Yep. We're getting close to the end of the school year, but we just had the election and we had all of the warrant articles passed,
Yeah, very, very grateful for the support of the community, really.
It's an amazing community.
It's very affirming to work in a community that supports our work with students, and you can tell that, it's part of the value,
right.
The values of the community.
It is.
Taking care of our children, no doubt.
So one of the things that I heard a lot, even on election day, was, where are those 5 snow days? Where's that warrant article, Where's that warrant article for aren't you guys going to be staying in school for longer every day?
Right.
So we did add 16 minutes to the school day.
We did, yes. That was actually part of the collective bargaining agreement that we reached with the teachers. And that was something that we worked very hard at, and the teachers also worked very hard at, and it was a very nice process. It was very collaborative with the Teachers Association. I think we all kind of saw the value and kind of set that as a common goal. So we're grateful that the teachers worked with us through that, and that was part of the warrant article.
Right.
Yep.
And we also have 5 snow days now built in, so you don't into those extra minutes.
Well, we want to be careful to explain that we do have the ability to waive up to 5 snow days. Right. One of the things I've been kind of careful to explain.
So it's the ability to waive.
In other words, if we have up to 5 snow days, we don't have to make any of them up. Where there's been some confusion is that some people think that because we have that in there, we're going to have 5 snow days. And that's obvious, as always, that's determined by the weather.
Sure.
This year we only have 2 snow days. So if this were next year, we should knock on something wood here.
Yeah, because
I know there's weather coming in this weekend.
It's weather events. It's not necessarily snow.
Right. I always tell you, last year, my first year as superintendent, my first cancellation ever was for a hurricane. I don't know. There are many people in Londonderry, New Hampshire. Yeah. But yeah, to that point, we have the ability to waive the first 5 days. It doesn't mean we're going to take 5 days off. Right. Part of our objective in lengthening the school day was to increase the amount of instructional time that students have, and as a byproduct of that, we are now well over the minimum for the State Department of Education, and we do have the ability to do that. Previously, we did not, and that's one of the reasons why we worked that into negotiations.
So I know the draft of the calendar went out. It was presented to the school board on Tuesday night.
It was, yes.
And that still has everybody the teachers starting back to school 2 weeks into August.
Correct.
And then the students starting before Labor Day.
Yes.
So the governor had no influence on our town, huh? At
this point, that is still very much a local control matter. Yet local school boards set that, and that's how we operate until we're told differently.
Well, did you look at the option, though, of starting after Labor Day and seeing what the time limit would be? We did take a look at that when we were working on the draft of the calendar. And as you can imagine, it does bring us into the 3rd week of June. It sort of defeats the purpose of trying to set that graduation date earlier and trying to set the end of school earlier. But I think what it does is it does open that possibility down the road. Should the board look at that option and say, okay, now, because we do have a minimized risk of snow days, we might be able to look at something like that. At that point, we would still be, I think right now it's around the 13th, and obviously we would add 3 or 4 days to that, plus any. Because it just would be 3 days, right? Because the students start on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday?
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Yep. We the way the new calendar will work, because we also have an additional professional development day that the teachers will be here. Normally, we would have 4 days at the start of school for teachers only, where we're opening up. On an election year, which would be next year, we take one of those days and we put it in at the primary. We don't have to do that this year because we have an extra day, so there's still 4 days at the start of school. So basically the way that works, we have new teachers on Monday and Tuesday. The teachers come in Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and the following Monday. Students start on Tuesday, and then we go Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday is a holiday for
So
students.
the school board will, are you going to present anything different? Did you hear anything different from them?
At this point, I haven't heard anything. I haven't been asked to make any kind of amendments or anything of that nature. The feedback on that has been pretty minimal because it's pretty close to what we've been doing. We've done in the past.
Right.
We did take a look at November. November is usually pretty chopped up. The way things work this year, we actually have 2 full weeks in November, which is pretty rare. But we do have the first week in November and then the third week in November are both 5-day weeks. So that's just the way the calendar falls this year. But other than that, we did take a look at, obviously there's a lot of consternation about that January primary day. And none of us will know
when it is.
When that is until the Secretary of State sets that date, which will probably be in
December
or January.
January 1st. You know,
we have to be first.
Right.
Yep. So we got to wait till everyone else goes.
Sure. It's such an interesting game that this country plays, eh?
It really is. It really is. We certainly have a long way to wait between our primary and the general election. But
so the 16 extra minutes is going to make a change in the school times in
Correct.
the elementary, middle, and high schools.
Right.
And everything is a domino because whatever happens at the elementary, the high school is the first to arrive in the morning.
High school's first to arrive in the morning, but they have one of the earlier start times around. The buses arrive at the high school at 7 a.m. Their first bell is at 7:20 right now, which is pretty standard as far as high schools go. The bus routes start as early as 6:20 in the morning. We really didn't want to move that any earlier because that also puts our younger drivers on the road a little earlier too. So we didn't want to do that, but we did play with a number of different scenarios where we added half in the morning, half in the afternoon, all in the morning, all in the afternoon. We've been playing out a number of different scenarios.
Right. And nothing's been determined yet?
Right now we have a draft, but it has not been set in stone. What we arrived at, we've been working with the bus company because, as you said, everything's a domino. So what happens is we actually have timing between bus routes. So the same buses are used for high school, middle school, and elementary. They do 3 runs, so they have to be able to complete their run, get back, empty, and then go to wherever their new run is. So the bus company's been working with us on that. They've been very helpful as far as that goes. And that's part of it. The scenario that we're playing out right now would have high school and middle school with the full 16 minutes at the end of the day, and with elementary school with 8 minutes before and 8 minutes after. We have enough time between the middle school and elementary school runs to accommodate those 8 minutes. And what that does is that avoids particularly our youngest learners getting home quarter after 4 or 4. Yeah. Our right now, our all clear is in the afternoon, which is when all buses are empty. That's generally right around 4 o'clock.
Right.
So
we don't want it any later than that.
We don't want any later than that, particularly during those times in December when the days are so short and it's dark. It'll be dark for a long time by then.
And I'm sure you're getting a lot of, many different opinions of how those 16 minutes should be chopped up.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yep, we're really relying on feedback from our buildings and building leaders as far as being able to talk about how that'll be used and how it would be broken out. Really what we're doing at the district office level is we're working with the bus company on can we make the transportation piece work. So
we have a few changes that are going to be happening in, the middle school is going to get a new principal.
Yes, getting down to the end of that search now and looking forward to hopefully within the next week or two. I know we've got a board meeting on April 2nd. We're hoping to have a candidate there that night. So we're getting close.
That's great.
Yeah.
That'll be nice. What other things are happening with your, Jen was reelected, so your board is stable as the same board you had last year.
Same board.
Right?
Yep.
So
we're that piece is it's always nice to you don't go through much of a transition. We are in the middle of a search right now for our director of our kindergarten.
That's right.
Bonnie Bryhop is retired after many, many years of service to the community. We'll be interviewing in the next couple of days for that position, doing initial interviews for that. We also have an open position right now for our IT director.
And that's been open for quite a while.
We had one of our people in-house filled in. We had an unexpected departure from our previous IT director, and we had a person fill in-house in the interim. We decided to go in that direction just because it was the middle of the school year.
Sure.
As we know, most school employees work on an annual contract, so we thought we would have more success opening it up.
Sure.
At this time of year.
Absolutely.
So that's open right now.
Right.
That'll be closing end of next week. Right now we have about 40 applicants for that position, so we're hoping we can find someone in there who's going to be able to come in and provide some real stable leadership and
That's a great pool to be able to pull from.
It's a nice pool, a varied pool as far as experience goes. We have some public sector, private sector. So yeah, we're gonna have our work cut out for us. We're going through that pool.
And did you get many applications for the kindergarten coordinator?
We did. If memory serves me, I believe we had about 25 for that. Also a very nice mix of experience level. We're really looking for someone with a strong background in early childhood education. I don't want to minimize the leadership piece. That's certainly a part of it. But in that situation, instructional leadership in that community is in that faculty is such an important piece that we're really looking at someone who has that early childhood background.
Right. So right now we're status quo with the extra rooms that we have at Moose Hill, the portables.
We are watching that daily. This year we actually, it turned into an advantage. If you look back over the past few years, in the last 3 or 4 years, our kindergarten classes have been around 270 to 280 students. We still have, as of yet, no real idea why, but this year's enrollment in the current kindergarten class was 225. Right now, we literally monitor day to day our kindergarten enrollment. At this time, we have 235 signed up for next year. What we did is we went back and took a look at what we got from March to the start of school last year, and we had an additional 50. Right. So when we're certainly not predicting that. I mean, it's such a variable
Well, I'm going to give you one
quantity,
because somebody bought my house that has a kindergarten.
You have it. All right. Excellent. Welcome. Welcome to Londonderry.
3
right?
more in our town.
Love it.
Yeah.
So we watch that day to day. If that projection holds up, we'll be back up in the 280 range for next year, and that'll fill up the building pretty well. But we are planning on going ahead with the presentation at an upcoming board meeting, maybe as early as the next one, depending on the will of the chair, on full day kindergarten and talking about what that looks like across our state.
But we didn't get Keno.
We did not get Keno.
How are we going to pay for it?
What we are going to do in our initial presentation is we're going to talk about full day kindergarten as a concept. This is where it is in the state. These are the advantages. We know there are some disadvantages to full day kindergarten as well. But right now, I know approximately 90% of the children in New Hampshire have access to some form of full day kindergarten. So it's a question that's asked a lot.
Sure.
As we welcome new families to our community, that's probably the question that I answer most from families who are thinking about buying here. The other piece of that, I know, speaking of Keno, the governor has really emphasized full day kindergarten as far as the adequacy formula goes. And I think part of the reason he's doing that, I've been reading up on it a little bit, and I know one of the things I hear a lot is from an economic development standpoint, as companies look to move here, it's something that they're looking at. Sure. And he knows that that's an advantage that we would be able to offer as far as young families coming in to offer full day
when we look
care.
at Moose Hill and the fact that it also houses the LEAP program.
Correct.
So the LEAP wouldn't become full day, it would just be the kindergarten.
Right, just the kindergarten.
Right.
It would also, it's one of the reasons why we really wanted to take our time and inform the board as well as we possibly can on this topic, because if we were to make a decision as a community to go in that direction, obviously it would require a pretty considerable expansion of the
Sure.
Moose Hill facility.
Yeah.
Right now we have 15 sections of kindergarten and 8 classrooms. We know LEAP does occupy 6 other classrooms at the Moose Hill facility, so a considerable addition would be needed.
So how quickly could it, I mean, I know we'd have to vote on it, and
Right.
depending on how you wanted to pay for it, it would either be well, you'd probably bond it.
I think
I don't
you'd
think
have
we'd be
to.
paying for it in 1 year. But anyway, how quickly, if you were to put it on the ballot next May, March, I mean,
Right.
and break ground July 1st, how quickly do you think you would be able to have it?
That's a really good question. I think we'd still be at least a couple of years away. Biggest issue obviously being the facility. Once we would have to go through a full, building process
Sure.
and with the planning process and
Right.
everything as well. And even if you accelerate that, I think you're at least a couple of years out.
Okay.
Which is part of why, we're really trying to emphasize that in the work that we're doing. I know we have had a declining enrollment trend over the last 10 to 12 years, and certainly since that a little longer. However, one of the responsibilities that I have in a part of this process is thinking about the next 10 years.
Sure.
And where we might go. And I think a lot of people who've lived in town for a long time remember when the last boom came and we found ourselves with 1,000 students at Matthew Thornton.
Sure.
What we're really trying to do is plan for and position the district in such a way that we're able to better accommodate that when and if that does happen again.
Right.
And as we look at documents from the planning department, and what the information that we have right now with new development alone, the planning office is telling us to expect about 280 new students in the next 3 years. That includes Woodmont, and it includes McGregor Cut, and some of the other developments in the north part of town. Wallace Farms is going to be expanding again. There are a lot of new homes coming on, and as everyone else has been talking about, the turnover of homes. We have
Right.
folks selling homes and families moving in. That we can't account for, but it's really what we're thinking is we need to plan for and begin to work towards accommodating an influx of students before it happens.
So I know you did your survey, or you did your research on functional capacity versus capacity.
Yes.
Have you made that presentation? Have you said, for example, we know that Matthew Thornton held 1,000 students. It wasn't a functional capacity of 1,000 students, but
Right.
it held 1,000 students. And we would never want it to hold 1,000 students again, because
Right.
those were 35 and 40, student classroom sizes.
Right.
So do you know exactly what the difference between the functional and the actual capacity is on all of these buildings?
What we did, we do have the ability to calculate that. What we did is our IT department actually did a very nice job developing spreadsheet tools that allow us to change the function of different rooms, and it actually adjusts what the capacity would be. And the example of that might be, and it's one of the things we really want to make sure people understand, if you take the art room and you turn that into a classroom, you increase the capacity by 20 students, but you handicap the art program.
Right.
So we actually have a spreadsheet that is a map, and we did it initially for Moose Hill, but we actually have them for all 3 elementary schools now as well, which will allow us to be able to calculate that. So if people say to us, well, what if we increase class size from 20 to 25 students? We have a spreadsheet, we can plug that in and tell people within minutes as to how that would impact the capacity of the buildings.
Okay, so the reason I'm asking that question is because you also have special needs right now.
Correct.
And so the difference
Yep.
between a classroom that can hold 25 students and a classroom that has a program in it, that function is different. And so then the
Yep.
numbers that it can hold, it might be able to hold 5 not 25.
Exactly.
So that's what I'm asking. So if you, given the configuration of all of the schools right now, do you have a difference between functional and actual capacity?
As far as, short answer, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we have that calculated for each one of the three buildings, but like I said, I think the piece that we were really working towards as far as developing these spreadsheet models was the ability to tell people what the impact of changing that would be.
Right, and that's what I would want to see, though. Yeah, but I would want to see, to be able to have this, be able to have support the argument that we need an addition on Moose Hill, or an additional elementary school eventually, is to say that currently we have 3 programs in this school, and they need 4 classrooms that would hold
80 students,
but can hold 10 or 15.
Because they house those
because of
programs.
Because of the type of programs, and
right.
we are all, as a board and as a community, in agreement that all of these programs need to stay in these schools because they provide a service to our residents, and that's the importance of having them. But it means that you have a difference between an actual capacity and a functional capacity in those schools.
Instead of that classroom, and that is the case at Matthew Thornton, as you know, there are some classrooms that used to be, for example, a first grade classroom that would hold 20 to 25 students that now house a self-contained special education program that really can only serve up to 5. So that's one of the differences. We know that those programs are here and should be here because those are our neediest students, and they should go to school as close to home as possible, not ride a bus a long distance. But we also talk every year, because as a part of the budget process, we calculate the cost differential between what it would cost us to send those students elsewhere versus what it costs us to run the programs in-house. In the current budget year, that differential, we save about $10 million by keeping those students here. Our first concern is the most efficient learning environment, most effective learning environment we can provide for our children, but it does realize a savings, a cost avoidance of about $10 million.
Right. I think it's an important point to be made, though, and I think it has to be drilled home every single time we talk about expanding any kind of a building or building a new building, you know. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Anything else that you'd like to discuss this week? This month, I should
that's
say.
A lot.
It was a lot.
That's a lot. There's a lot going on right now. We realize this is a very, very important, very crucial time for our school district. And I'm just grateful we have a chance to talk about it here, and happy to do that anywhere I can.
Sure. All right. So. I want to commend you and the school board for having so many student presentations this year. It's way more than I've seen, in a few years that I've been involved. It's also exciting to know that we have the program with the service dog coming into the high school as a senior project. The senior projects don't get touted enough because they're so interesting and so diverse. I know one young lady was involved with horses that were helping autistic children, so she, that was her senior project. So there's just so much out there. It's hard to be able to express it all and share it all with the community, but I think they should know. All the great things.
Senior projects are an opportunity for our students to pursue something that is of interest to them and that is a passion for them in their senior year, and receive credit for that. There are some schools that actually require a senior project. We're not going to go there just yet, but there are some schools that require one, and in any situation, I had the ability to teach in one of those districts, and it was one of the most rewarding things that we did, because students literally got to design a project that was something that they were interested in and felt passionate about, and to watch them dive in and really conduct what was a pretty high level independent research was it's why we do what we do.
Right. So. It's very exciting.
It sure is.
I know that every year they have a display of the some of the things that the seniors have done.
Yep.
They have an evening of that, so I will make sure to advertise that as much as I can, because I think the community would do well to come
Yeah.
and visit.
Pretty impressive.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. It's worth seeing.
right.
Yep.
Thank you so much for being with me today.
Thank you.
Have a nice March. March is, music in our schools, so there's lots of
Yep.
concerts happening right now, and theater and everything else. So get out to our schools and enjoy, the investment that you've made. We appreciate, again, your support of our schools. And thank you for joining me. This has been Mary Wing Soares for Transparency in Government.